Welcome to another edition of Heavy Live with Scoopy. I am Brandon Scoopy Robinson, senior writer here at Heavy.com. We are on a multitude of heavy Facebook pages, heavy NFL pages, heavy on Lakers, heavy on Celtics. But this guy that's to my right really needs no introduction. He is a WWE Hall of Famer, someone that I consider a friend. He's none other than Mark Henry. Mark, welcome to Heavy Live with Scoopy.
What's going on, man? Or to your left, depending on where you are.
This is true. You in rare form today. I tell you that.
I can't help it. You know I can't help it. The food comes out real easy.
Yeah. You and I have talked off and on throughout the pandemic since March. Phone, you were on my Instagram Live, and just different tidbits of information. Excuse me. Last we talked, you were getting ready to head to Orlando to the WWE bubble, and you've been back and forth since then. First and foremost, how are you?
Man, I'm great, man. I'm truly blessed. I'm sitting here in my little makeshift studio with my friend Bill, walking around in the back. We're going to my son's football game after I do this interview with you and hang out. And man, it's just a really, really blessed time. Family's healthy. I've had a couple of friends of mine that, got COVID, and they all bounced back. So I'm truly, truly blessed.
You and I talked a couple of months ago, and I remember one of the things that you had asked me on the phone was about the difference between the NBA's testing for COVID in the bubble and the WWE. And I actually did make a call at the time. They were not testing antibodies. You put me on game with that. And soon thereafter, the NBA started testing for antibodies. I'm curious from your perspective, speaking strictly from a WWE perspective, what is the day-to-day testing or the for WWE wrestlers and in this fanless situation that they're in?
You know what? They go into a weekly bubble, and it's kind of awkward because the first day you fly in is 3 days before you go into the bubble. Mm-hmm. You fly in 3 days, which, man, like that makes for a long 5 days because 3 days. I don't like that. I mean, I did it, but I didn't like it. And to fly in, go get tested, and man, they scrape through your nose, they touch over here. They go in there, and then you sit in the room for 24 hours. They don't want you to leave your room, except like if you have to go to the front desk or something. But no leaving the hotel. Really, they don't want you to leave the room. And then 24 hours later, they call you and say, "Okay, you're good." Report to Full Sail, where you get on a bus, because they won't allow you to bring your cars. You have to go get on the bus. They sanitize you down, and then you have to do the spit cup. Now you spit in, and you give that to them, and then they analyze that in like 15, 20 minutes, and then everybody says, "Okay, everybody's good. Everybody get on the bus," and we're out. And then you go to the Performance Center, or you go to the Amway, and you're in an environment where everybody there has been through the same procedures that you've been through. And it's pretty stringent testing system. And man, I don't like noise and racket. So one of the rooms that I was sitting in, this machine was, I'm just like, man, what is that? And I turned it off. And they was like, "Hey, man, don't turn that off." I was like, "Why? It's making a lot of noise." It says it's an air filter. And I was like, "Oh, okay, never mind. Just have to put some headphones on or something, man." Like, they are serious. Mm-hmm. Like a big industrial, look like a dishwasher, like a small dishwasher or garbage disposal type thing, and they're running all over the place. So it was really, really safe environment.
Mark, tell me something. I know growing up, we hear Santa Claus is not real. Santa Claus is fake. If you had $1 every time you had to explain the notion to people about wrestling and when they call it fake, would you be a millionaire?
Oh, yes. Without a shadow of a doubt. I'd be able to invest in a lot of things that currently I'm not indulging in, like, going to clubs and making it rain and bottle service. That's the kind of investments that I'm kind of dreaming about right now.
So for those who are not totally invested in wrestling, like maybe I am in basketball because we know each other, how do you debunk, like, how do you explain the quote unquote fake part versus the real part to people?
Well, I choose not to use the word fake because that means it didn't happen. It's somehow not good. Fake is a knockoff. It's not a good one. Pro wrestling is the original Broadway. There was no Broadway before wrestling. The term Broadway means 1 hour show in pro wrestling. And there have been hundreds, thousands of wrestlers that have did Broadway matches starting in Madison Square Garden, all the gardens. There used to be like 5 or 6 gardens. Garden in Boston, the garden in Montreal, the New York, Philly had a garden. I mean, it was a bunch of them. And that was kind of the establishment of where the Broadways took place. To have Ric Flair was like the master of the 1 hour match. I don't know if there was anybody that ever did more one hour Broadways than Ric Flair. And to debunk the smoke and mirrors fake thing, if I pick somebody up over my head and I throw them, whether I know that I'm throwing them because gravity is going to take hold and they're going to hit the ground. The whole fake thing does not apply in pro wrestling because in pro wrestling, if I grab somebody in a headlock, I really have to put them in a headlock. They just have to know how to work it. They just have to know how to put their hands underneath my arm, turn their head to the crease. If somebody walked up behind you right now and put you in a rear naked choke, you cannot be choked if you don't want to be choked by putting your hand inside their hand, turning your chin to the crook, to the point of the elbow, and you can breathe. Like, how long can you fight them off? That's up to you. But that's the reality of pro wrestling. All of the stuff, I'm gonna kick his ass out in a minute. All of the stuff that happens in pro wrestling is a derivative of the real fighting arts. It's just that we know that we're meant to entertain. For years and years, that was taboo. Like, you don't talk about it. And now that we've come out and said, yes, pro wrestling is entertainment, mainly because of insurance purposes, licensing, being able to go to every state and not have the sports commissions come down on us because we're a sport, that we're entertainment, but it does not taint it at all, because we've had 4 or 5 guys leave pro wrestling and go and be the best fighters on the planet. And there's about 5 or 6 more guys that refused to fight that didn't. I don't think that nobody would have been able to beat Kurt Angle. No one. I couldn't hold him. I tried with everything I had in me. So, like, there are things about some of our guys that supersede, Shelton Benjamin. He taught Brock Lesnar. He was Brock's coach at Minnesota. And I've watched Brock and Shelton work out and kind of spar. And as strong and good as Brock was, Shelton could handle him.
Tell me something.
You can't discount the talent of pro wrestling.
But I watched the documentary over the summertime, and it was one about pro wrestling. I know they highlighted like Mick Foley, a bunch of people. I found it one random night on Netflix, and it showed like how they choreograph stuff. So like, is it determined before matches who's gonna win? Like, how does that work?
How over you are. Like, will people pay $45 to say a record? That's just a live event ticket.
Right.
But there's some WrestleMania tickets that go $1,500, $2,000 for the first 5 rows. Those you have to draw people in to pay those prices.
Okay.
That guy, it's very real to him. I've been a main event talent in my life, and I took a lot of pride in drawing people in. And I played the role, but I believed the role, and the people believed the role that I was playing, which is more Hollywood than it is sport. But it takes great athletes and people that are really extremely tough. Because in our business, I say, Scoop, you hit me and lay it in. Because if you don't hit me and lay it in, nobody's going to believe it. So you have to hit me. And that's our business. We allow ourselves to get hit.
Right. Roman Reigns. Would you pay to see Roman Reigns take on The Rock in a main event? Or would you pay to see Roman Reigns take on John Bones Jones in the main event in WWE?
I would pay money to see both because, I would pay money too to see Cormier in there too. Not only is he a big wrestling fan, you see my wife back there, she's back there with her mask. Y'all wear y'all masks. Because if you go to the grocery store and my wife is there and you don't have a mask on, she's gonna cut you out. You think I'm the killer? You are in for it. But wrestling, man, like the whole stigma, it don't upset talented wrestlers. People used to do that. People like John Stossel. I want to get a rise out of the guys. I'm gonna say wrestling's fake, and you're pulling the wool over people's eyes, and you have got to be living under a rock for you to walk around here and feel like, you know what, I'm gonna piss Mark Henry off and go, hey, Mark Henry, is wrestling fake? And I'm gonna be like, it's entertainment. There's a difference. Fake, but if I throw a punch at you, or if I put my hand out to slap you and I do this and I miss you, that's fake. Mm-hmm. But in my business, there's going to be contact. That's real. Mm-hmm. And the better the relationship that you have with people, the more course blanche you give them to lay it in. That's the term. Lay it in. I don't want people to look at my art as being phony. So it's got to be real.
If you could go back in time, you and I interconnect on so many levels, whether it's music, whether it's the church, whether it's basketball. We're going to talk about a couple of different things, but I'm curious to know from your perspective. I talked to Kirk Franklin recently, and I asked him if he had the chance to go, the gospel singer Kirk Franklin, for those who aren't familiar. I asked him if he had the chance to go back and re-record one or two of his albums, what would he choose? And he said he wouldn't re-record anything, but he wishes that he had Kanye West's Jesus Walks. For you, what are you thinking, first of all, when you hear that?
Well, the first time that I heard that Jesus Walks, I thought gospel.
Okay.
I didn't think secular. I didn't think hip hop. I didn't think R&B or mainstream music. I thought wow, this is in the church, man. Like it was serious to me, and I could see where Kirk Franklin could say that.
If you could go back in time and redo 3 of your matches, whether you won or lost, either or, your choice, which 3 would you want to redo on?
Oh man, I would like to redo a match I had with Daniel Bryan where I lost the title. I feel like that match I should have won and gave him more reason to want to do it again. And for it not to be like, okay, you beat me and win the championship, and then, now I join Big Show, and me and Big Show become the world's largest tag team. I think that I should have won that and taunted Daniel Bryan and told him that, look, I'm going to give you another chance because now that I beat you, I know I could beat you. And then him kick my ass. And then that would have made it even better for him.
Right.
Not because I just wanted to have another pay-per-view to get another check, which that would have been good too. But I wanted that for him. That would have been great for him. The other one is after my retirement speech, and I turned on John Cena, which is one of the more historical wrestling moments in history. I was so beat up that I wanted to go home, that I really didn't want to wrestle no more. Like I was in so much pain because, like I said, it was real to me. And I told people, lay it in because I'm going to hit you. And I don't want you saying I beat you up and took advantage of you and yada, yada, yada. Like I'm giving my body to you. Like, let's go. And the match I had was in Philadelphia with John Cena, and I lost that match when I should have won that match. I should have told them, no, I'm not going to go home. Like, let's run a 6-month program, and we could have had many matches. But, I was ready to go. Me and D'Lo Brown in the Nation had a tag match against the New Age Outlaws for the title at Survivor Series. And I wish I could go back and do it again because I spent all night partying, hanging out, and I don't drink or do drugs or nothing like that. But when I was out in the clubs, man, I was out in the clubs till the sun came up. And I got to the arena and I was dog tired and I fell asleep on the floor. I was lethargic all day. And I don't feel like I gave my best performance for what me and D'Lo was representing coming out of the Nation at that time. And I felt like I did more of a disservice to D'Lo, and I regretted that my performance wasn't that great. And of course, that was like one of those learning moments to me as an athlete. That should never happen again. I got my head together, and I went on to have a Hall of Fame career.
I see you playing. So when you look at, you talked about John Cena. When I look at John Cena, I feel like every generation has a background. You look at Hulk Hogan, he was the standard in the 80s and 90s, and then, then came along The Rock, and then John Cena. Is John Cena this generation's Hulk Hogan, or is John Cena?
Steve Austin in there too.
What you said?
So you got to have Steve Austin in that conversation when you start talking about the Steve Austin and John Cena both, and The Rock. All three of those guys, they changed the way wrestling business was done. From a contract standpoint, they got a greater percentage of the gates and so forth, made it contracts not guaranteed at that time, even though I was the first wrestler in history to have a guaranteed contract. But they took it to another level and created what we called the downside, If you get hurt, then you live off that money. And, you know, that money might be $100,000. It might be $500,000. It might be $1 million. Just to have you as a contracted wrestler for that company. And those guys kind of put that in place.
You are loved.
But like the whole world of pro wrestling owes a debt to those guys. And there was other guys, Triple H, that was, you know, really, really good at that time. The Undertaker, who, in my opinion, is on that Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling. Like, if you start going back to Dusty Rhodes and Andre the Giant and Ric Flair and the people like, you know, we'll be here all day. But we were talking about the guys that you just mentioned. Mm-hmm. Those guys, and with Steve Austin in there, are responsible for the way that the fans look at wrestling now. Not just the way fans look at it, the way they buy merchandise. Mm-hmm. Because Steve Austin would have a different shirt every Monday. Mm-hmm. And like Monday Night Raw is the longest episodic television show in history. And every Monday, you got a new shirt. Every pay-per-view, 7 pay-per-views, 9 pay-per-views a year. Like the money that those guys were making just for merchandising was ridiculous. And they made that, you know, it's kind of like the way it is, you know, now everybody's got, you know, I got merch, we got t-shirts and coffee cups and license plate covers and wallets. Like those guys changed the game.
From your perspective, what's the difference between John Cena transitioning into Hollywood compared to when The Rock transitioned? Because when I look at it, Roman Reigns looks like he wants to follow in his cousin's footsteps on the Hollywood side. Do you see him doing the same?
I can see Roman Reigns, you know, being a Hollywood actor, being a serious role player. John Cena and The Rock, the commonality is both of those guys are very well studied. Mm-hmm. I never met nobody in my life that studied more and prepared more than Dwayne. He was over prepared for every situation that he would go into. And John Cena is one of the brightest people I've ever met. From the time that he used to ride with me and we used to rap on the drives in Louisville when he was you know, the prototype, his first 6 or 7 weeks in WWE. Mm-hmm. I knew that he was going to make it because of how smart he was, and he was always thinking, why? Why do you do that? And you say, oh, well, because you do this. Well, when do you know to do that? And the how is very important. You know, you got to know how to do things. But the most important thing in wrestling is why and when. You see these matches that people respect the entertainment of pro wrestling now. But the most important thing is letting the veteran leadership show you how to do it, why you do it, but most importantly, when is the right time. And the fans are the ones that are going to decide. I'm beating somebody. I'm listening. I know when to turn it up. I know when to back off and say, hey, you need to stand up for yourself. Fire up. Come on. Like that kind of thing is like having a conductor leading an orchestra. Mm-hmm. And the crowd thinks that they're the conductor, but they're the audience. Mm-hmm. I'm the conductor. And that's the art of pro wrestling that people never explain. And you're the only person that's ever had that explanation, I guarantee you, about pro wrestling, the inner workings.
We're going to get back to that in a minute. Heavy Live with Scoop B on all Facebook channels, as well as Periscope on Twitter, YouTube. We are on a myriad of different Facebook pages through heavy.com. And I'm looking at some of these comments, I know that before we started talking, you showed me your office. You had Lakers paraphernalia with Magic Johnson. You got championship belts. You also have an Ezekiel Elliott Dallas Cowboys jersey hanging up in your office. Number one, are you a Cowboys fan?
Oh, born, man, from 1971. I wasn't there when Tony Dorsett was busting out, but I guarantee you by the time I was 6 or 7, all I had was 33 jerseys. I was a Tony Dorsett fan in his heyday, in his prime. And man, I'm just saying, like, all these new fans, I see a lot of Chiefs stuff out now. A lot of Chiefs. Everybody's a Chiefs fan. Whatever. When my team went 1-16 and I was crying, I'm a little junior high kid crying that my team lost. Oh, yeah. I'm the worst loser of all time. That's why I was great in a lot of times. And the only human being walking the planet that's been a world champion in 3 different sports that have nothing to do with each other, and a multi-time national champion in another sport, because I hate losing. I hate it with a passion. And the teams that I've supported, like, they lost. And the greatest feeling was to see my team win a division championship, see my teams win Super Bowls and NBA championships. In 79, when I became a Laker fan, was because of one dude. It wasn't because I respected Kareem and all of the Jerry West. I didn't know the history of the Lakers. Back then, I don't even think that I remember other than watching Houston Rockets play. But once I saw Magic the first time, it was over. It was over. Muhammad Ali and Magic Johnson are the 2 greatest sporting figures, in my opinion, of all time, because of what they did for me, not what they did for you. And I'm not saying that for everybody else. I'm saying for Mark Henry, they did the most.
Cowboys. Is Jerry Jones the new Al Davis?
He is.
Why?
Control. And if you own something, say me and you went into business together, and I have the business acumen. Hey, listen, man, I'm killing right now. Got enough money to get this and that and that. All right, cool. Hey, but you're a better director and a better marketer, and you say, listen, you get the tools, you pay for the tools, and I'll make all these tools work. And we'll win, win, win. All right, cool. But then everybody start patting Scoop on the back. Oh, you're a genius. Man, I can't believe, where did you come up with that? And then I'm sitting there like, hey, I did something too. I'll pay for it. Like I had the vision to start it. But you get all the attention. You get all the admiration. These egos tend to allow that to take precedence. And they say, well, I want somebody that I can tell what to do. It's my money. It's my building. It's my team. And until that ceased to exist, until Jerry said, you know what, man, I'm throwing my hands up. Y'all right. I need to have a general manager and a coach that's not me and my son, that knows the business of football as good or better than we do, which there are people out there that know it obviously better than they do. And as the tuna so greatly put it, how can you expect me to make a meal when I don't get to pick out the groceries?
Do you think that with Dak Prescott being hurt next season, he can prove what they're missing? As the
He already had in one game.
Okay.
One game, you saw the difference in leadership. He's leading a bunch of guys that they want to be led, but he don't have supreme power. Dak Prescott is a quarterback. He has supreme power on the field, but let Dak Prescott go out there and call 5 plays on his own. Timeout. He gonna come to the sideline and they're gonna say, what the hell are you doing? We didn't call that. He's like, we got 3 first downs in a row. I don't give a shit. During the plays I call. That's the way it is.
The Los Angeles Lakers, they're NBA champions.
Yes. God. We had Jesus Shuttlesworth on our team.
Woo. When you look at that team, what did you like about Anthony Davis and LeBron James together?
I like the fact that probably about 40% of the time they got one-on-ones. And the reason that they got one-on-ones is because LeBron drew a double, sometimes a triple. And Anthony, when they ran the pick and roll, it was kind of like Stockton and Malone, except for you had LeBron and Anthony Davis rather than Karl Malone and John Stockton, which Karl Malone and John Stockton, great combination. Great combination. Love the pick and roll. But the difference between, I think that if you were to, switch it all around and you put LeBron and Anthony Davis on Karl Malone's team with Tyrone Corbin and Hornacek and all of those guys, they wouldn't have lost the game because they had better role players than the Lakers had this year. But I do think that at times the Lakers role players stepped up, especially Rondo, because of his intelligence and his understanding. It's kind of like having Chris Paul without the jump shot. And I'll tell anybody that listen, if Chris Paul plays with LeBron and AD, it's very likely they won't lose a game. That'll be the worst thing that you could ever do. The only reason they'll lose is because they'll rest, and then people won't play max minutes, and you're gonna lose. You see a team win 73 games, they can win 75.
Tell me something. If the Lakers found a way to substitute Giannis Antetokounmpo for Anthony Davis, would they be undefeated too?
Yes. If you get Chris Paul, then you got Chris Paul and Rondo. I think that the biggest thing was the fact that Danny Green was making 16, 17 million, and Caldwell Pope was making 18 million. Both of those guys shouldn't be getting paid over $8 to $10 million. So you got close to $14 million in cap space. I would offer them both 9 just to be nice. Stay on the team for next year.
For sure.
If I'm the general manager of that team, this is what we have available. Unless we find a guy like, Grant, who played for Utah.
Right.
Now you got to pay Grant 23.
Denver.
So I'm going to eliminate both guys, and I'm going to just give him all the money.
Because he can play some basketball.
Pick up some old veteran players that can come in and give us, 15 minutes a game, and we're going to have the same or better result. I think that the Lakers had no answer for Grant. But you know who was the star of the team?
Who?
Murray.
Murray
was the star of that team. And Murray was doing Murray. And everything that Grant was getting was garbage. He scrapped and fought for it. He went behind and he got open and he was there ready and he made those shots. He did that. It wasn't that the structure of the offense was to get him off. There's the difference.
Yeah. You know what I enjoyed? What team I enjoyed watching? They just didn't get to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
The Boston Celtics. I think
but they need some some grunts. They need one of the Morris brothers. They need they need to get Taco Fall to where he can run up and down the court for 20 minutes at a time and block shots and intimidate people. And every now and then he's going to have to push somebody in the face and want to fight. That team is way too weak and way too soft for all the talent that they have. And I don't care how tough Smart is and how great of an athlete and how strong he is, he's still a guard. And he's not going to intimidate shots and change the game that way. And he's only going to be on the floor when when the starters are tired. I'm never going to give a secondary player the benefit of a doubt until they prove to be a number one.
You made mention of Magic Johnson, and I had Nate Burleson on my podcast, Scoopy Radio, back in the spring, and he made this analogy. And since you're a Mr. Magic Johnson savant, I want to get your expertise on this. This is a breath of fresh air to have you talking about everything, world culture, music, more. But Nate Burleson said to me that Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs is Magic Johnson on the football field for the Chiefs. The way he plays basketball, how complimentary he is, he knows how to get things moving. Do you see a correlation between what Magic did on the basketball court and what Mahomes does on the football field for the Chiefs?
Great segue to football. You're awesome. And man, that's why you get the big bucks. Damn, that boy is good. Woo. But you know what? Nate is right. Patrick Mahomes, if he wanted to, he could lead the league in rushing. Because with the team that he has, they spread the field out. He can run the ball 7 yards and slide every time.
Yeah.
And if you did come up and he's gonna kill you. With he's got a great vision, and his awareness for the moment is his superpower. Everybody thinks that, it's just his rocket arm. Like, it's a bunch of guys in the NFL that can throw it 70 yards in the air. Bunch of them. They're not as accurate as him. He throws darts and hits bullseyes a lot at a really, really high rate. But the number one thing is first down and 10. What do we need to do in this first down and 10? I'm not bored yet. I'm going to make it boring because sometimes it looks boring watching him throw to Kelsey and then hit Hill on a deep fade or a deep slant or a post. And then you have another guy. What's 14's name? Watkins. You have Watkins running a drag across the middle. He has an option short. The running backs coming out of the backfield. A lot of times they run little flare routes and little ups out of the backfield. Like, he knows where everybody is. And if this guy gets out of position or out of place, then let me throw it over there. First down. It's boring. He looks like he's bored sometimes. He goes in the huddle. All right, guys. Travis, run that curl route. Hill, go behind, run that long. His arm is strong enough too that he can throw a 50-yard long, slow developing drag, and that offensive line gives him the time to let Hill go the furthest. Like some of those routes, he's running 4 seconds. I mean, you can count it off. And Patrick is doing this, But he knows, okay, I got to throw this 50-yard pass to the pylon. And then it's like, and he just throws it. And it's very Magic Johnson-like. He orchestrates that team like I was saying about the conductor.
Mm-hmm.
Magic Johnson from as a kid and watching him play and seeing him turn and get somebody on his hip and he's pounding a rock. And he's like, come. And then he gets that screen and it's a bounce pass. And the dude that you ain't looking at is getting the ball. Not the two guys that's involved in the pick and roll or the pick and pop. It's the back screen where Byron Scott is cutting to the basket off of Worthy and his boot layup, dunk. Patrick Mahomes is making the game look very easy. And it's been a long time since a guy like that played. The last time it was Joe Montana. And Joe had historical toys to play with. Historical toys. Jerry Rice, Mike Allstott, Ricky Waters, Brent Jones. He had a Alvin. The backup quarterback was good too, but it was a byproduct of the fact that they had a good system and they had good toys to play with. I don't think that Kansas City's toys are as good as what Joe Montana had.
Tell me something though.
Kelsey is the only one. Kelsey is going to be one of the top 3, top 4 tight ends that ever played by the time he's done. You watch. He gets to spots, and the first guy that touches him is not tackling him.
So you saying Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Travis Kelce?
I'm sorry? No, I'm not talking about the best receiver. I mean for that team.
Okay, got you. Okay.
And for tight ends, for the position of tight end.
Okay.
I mean, Tony Gonzalez and my guy with the Chargers, Gates. Bro, they do the same thing as Kelce. Mm-hmm. Every time they touch the ball, the first guy that got to them didn't tackle them. They had them what you call yak. They had them yards after the catch. Every time they catch, every now and then you get, a little caught it, fall down, somebody touches them down. But if they would have had time to get up, they would have got up and ran another 8 yards.
Mark, you touched on something. You talked about Joe Montana. And for me, I'm going to speak for myself. When I look at Tom Brady from going from New England to now playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I see a seamless comparison to Joe Montana when he joined the Chiefs. Do you think that they're parallel to each other?
I think that Tom Brady individually as a quarterback is better than every quarterback that ever existed. He played for New England. God bless him. If he would have played with Randy Moss, or if he'd have played with, Antonio Brown, if he'd have played with some of these star historically great wide receivers, or imagine him playing with Adrian Peterson as his power back, running the stretch, and him throwing little flares and 15-yard outs. Imagine Tom Brady on the Cowboys in 92, 93, 94, when he had Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper and Jay Novacek and Emmitt Smith to be his running back. Would he have ever lost? It's like Tom Brady played. No disrespect to the guys or nothing like that, but Tom Brady played with guys that didn't even get drafted. Just like, he played with guys that you can just get off free agency because, Tom is going to lead us.
Yeah.
And they did that to him. That's why he left. While he still had some juice left, he wanted to go see what it was like to play with Mike Evans, to play with Goodwin. And you see how that's turning out. And they're going to get better every game.
Mark, tell me something. You told a story. You told it to me, and it's the blogs kind of picked it up. Your thing with Michael Jordan. Apparently, you ran into Magic Johnson on a plane, and then Mike asked, "Who the hell is this?" Was the story taken out of context?
No, those were two different stories. The stuff on the plane with Irvin ended in me crying because I told him the reason that I got my first job was because I wanted weapons. It was when Magic Johnson and Larry Bird came out with these Converse shoes in 1980 called Weapons. And I wanted them, man. I wanted them bad. And I come from a really, really poor family. And my mom worked in houses and made $25 a day. So my mom never made over $25,000. I made over $15,000 in a year. Like with two boys that ate her out of house and home. I don't know how she did it, but I'm just saying. She said, "I'm not paying $75 for some shoes that you're not going to wear to church." And I had to come up with a way to get that money.
What you do?
I started cutting up boxes and cleaning off cans at a convenience store down the street. Wow. And I started cutting yards and raking and pulling grass from around houses and washing cars, everything I could do. And I ended up making about $385 a kid. $385 when I made more than my mom did. And my mom was like, "Listen, you get them shoes and you give me the rest of that money. I'll hold on to that for you. And I don't want you to work like that. If I wanted you to work like that, I wouldn't send you to school. You go to school and do what you're supposed to do over there and let me pay the bills."
Okay. So you got the conversation.
I told Irvin that, and we both stand on the plane going to the Olympics crying.
Wow.
Because he inspired me for greatness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it takes sometimes. One conversation with the right person, or one meeting, or one putting somebody on a pedestal and saying, "I want to be like that," and you actually go and try. I actually went and tried, and I succeeded.
The Michael Jordan story.
Michael Jordan was in the Olympic Village, and I just happened to be at the hotel with some of the guys that I knew, and Michael came down and walked through the lobby. He saw the guys, and he walked over there, and he didn't say, "Hey, how y'all doing, boys? What's going on?" It was more like, it was like he walked up and he saw me like, "Who are you?" "Well, who are you?" In not so nice of terms. And that was the beginning of that. Me saying, "Why would you say that?" And him going, "No, I'm no disrespect. I just wanted to know who you were." And I was like, "But that ain't the way you phrased it. You phrased it in a way that would make me want to punch you in the face." And he was like, "Oh, come on, man." I said, "Listen, did anybody else hear what I just heard?" And I talked to him, and he was very apologetic. He was like, "No, I did not try. I was not trying to disrespect you, man. I didn't want it to come across like that, but that's the way it felt at the time." By the end of it, he invited me to the All-Star game in '93 after the Olympics. I went to his birthday party in San Antonio where it was held, and we squashed it, shook hands. I had a good time that night, and I drove back to Austin from San Antonio like, "Wow, man, I just hung out with Michael Jordan. That was pretty cool." And I came home, and we never spoke again. I saw him at games because I'm a basketball fan, and whenever they came to San Antonio or went to Houston, you always want to go watch the Bulls play because they were the greatest basketball team in the world.
Mm-hmm. I like the way that works. You, Mike Tyson, Donald Trump, some other celebrities have been part of the WWE's lexicon as it relates to just, showing up and making, appearances. With the new generation of celebrities that are out there, you look at the Beyoncés and the Cardi B's and the Serena Williamses. Would you like to see music in other sports icons?
Serena Williams, can you say that like real slow? Like
Serena Williams.
Don't disrespect Beyonce, Cardi B. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Real woman right there, boy.
Would you like to see the names that I mentioned, Cardi B, Beyonce, and Serena Williams, be part of the WWE in some way?
You know what? I think it would be awesome. Cardi B, I think, would be the best for your entertainment dollar because she is like such an entertainer, man. And whether it's, by hook or by crook, I think the WWE needs to try to go out and get them the Beyonce to come and sing, and somebody might walk up, oh, you can't sing, and her pull their wig off or something. I don't know. I don't see her fighting nobody, but I can see some entertaining stuff happening. That's kind of been my forte, man. You mentioned a situation, and I try to make it wrestling, regardless.
Yeah. Do you see Ronda Rousey actually coming back to the WWE?
Hell yeah, I can't wait. I pray in my prayers every night. I pray that Ronda Rousey come back to wrestling, man. I hope she does, man. Ronda, if you're out there, if anybody knows Ronda, please tell Ronda to come back to wrestling. I mean, that was the best part of watching last year's WrestleMania is to see her development. The best opening, the best beginning in pro wrestling I ever saw. Nobody's ever, Kurt had a year to wrestle before everybody saw who he was. Ronda, her first match was, a pay-per-view, just like mine was the first match I ever had was a pay-per-view. But her first big deal was WrestleMania in the main event. Golly, man, the pressure but you have to be so good that pressure don't bother you. And you mentioned Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and Patrick Mahomes. The pressure don't bother Patrick Mahomes. You look at that dude, he's standing in the pocket, even with people rushing at him. Did you see the sideline play that he did? He like, I'm going to run out of bounds. No, I'm a pirouette, and I'm going to run 7 yards, and I'm going to try to stretch out. He didn't get the first down, but just the thought that a quarterback would try that I bet you it made him go, oh, that was real. That felt good. Because everything else is ho-hum to him.
You know what I meant to ask you? Would you like to see Ronda Rousey square off against Charlotte again? Or would you like to see Becky finally get her one-on-one match?
Ooh. Man, both of those are good options. I think that the greatness of Charlotte would even challenge Ronda Rousey. I think that also I'm thinking that Becky is at home getting ready to have a baby, and she won't be back in time for WrestleMania. So I'm already making the business decision to put her and Charlotte together. But year after next, then I want to see Becky get that chance. One-on-one.
You're athletic as hell. Everybody knows about the slam dunk contest that you won. Your height, your weight, able to do what you do. Over the years, I've watched you. You guys have had conversation, and then along came a guy that plays for the New Orleans Pelicans named Zion Williamson. Does he remind you of yourself?
Don't put me in the category with Zion Williamson as far as athletics is concerned. Yes, I was 400 pounds. I'm just 2 centimeters under 6'4", and I could put about this much of my arm above the rim. That's a 34-inch vertical for a 400-pound guy with long arms, and is nothing like having a 40-plus inch vertical. And for his size, his endurance is freaky, and his speed from mid-court to the basket. Charles Barkley is the only person I ever seen that quick. Everybody is comparing Zion Williamson with a lot of people, but if I was going to compare him to anybody, I would say he's a bigger version of Charles Barkley.
Charles tells me hell no. He said he sees Sean Kemp.
He's built like Sean Kemp, except he's thicker and more muscular and more heavy. Sean Kemp was also 6'10", kind of long and rangy.
Yeah,
the body types are not as similar. He's close. Charles Barkley really is 6'4" and a half.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I love Charles, but Charles is not 6'5", 6'6", is what everybody always said. Charles is just over 6'4". There's never been a forward that was fast, strong, aggressive, could shoot, had ball skills like Charles Barkley. I just, and you know, it's just my opinion. If I'm gonna pick a forward, he's gonna be the first one I pick, because it's like having a point guard, it's like having a two guard, it's like having a small forward, it's like having a small power forward. And every now and then you will see him get in there with Rodman and Shaq and all of the centers in the league. He could fit their ass off. Maybe not every time down court, but when it mattered, he could do it. Nobody never was like Charles. Now, my favorite, my favorite forward, Karl Malone. Karl Malone got better every year, even to the year that he retired. He came in shooting like Shaq, shooting 60-something% from the free throw line. Ended up shooting 80%. Where does that happen? Jason Kidd, maybe. Jason Kidd and Karl Malone. They improved.
Yeah.
And I just, how do you deny that? Not on his athletic ability. Did you ever see Karl tired?
Nah.
I never seen Karl Malone going, never. You and Dennis Rodman are like the most conditioned guys I think I ever saw. They just both look like they never was tired. I don't know, maybe they were acting, but they didn't look tired to me, and they didn't play like it either.
A few more questions. Mark, do you want to see CM Punk come back, and if so, against who?
Yes. And you know who the best competitor for CM Punk is?
Who?
Daniel Bryan. CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan would be, the match would be an hour long at least. I mean, historically good. Both of those guys are brilliant psychologists. That's the other thing about pro wrestling that people underestimate.
Right.
You look at football and basketball and golf, marbles, tiddlywinks. I'm not going to say baseball because most of them guys got high school educations, if that.
Okay.
But in pro wrestling, you have to be smart. The common thread between a lot of players and in wrestling is the brilliance and the ability to grasp concepts and tell stories. So you're like a writer, you're like a producer. That's what you're like, in a talent at the same time. So it's complicated. The little girl just came in too.
Hello again, ma'am.
JoJo, come here and say hi to Scoop. Say hi, Mrs. Scoop.
Hi.
Bless you. How are you?
Good.
Good. Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you too.
Now beat it, kid.
Mark, you basketball for me is where you and I find our middle ground, but we talk about other stuff. You go into an NBA locker room, it's different than being in a WWE locker room because basketball is a team sport. So, you walk into a Lakers locker room, you see KCP, LeBron, AD, Danny Green, all those guys, right? You go into a wrestling locker room. I've seen it backstage. I'm curious to know, like, you're in the back with yourself, Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Shawn Michaels. Not asking specific and getting people's business, but like, what are conversations like in the back, like that have nothing to do with wrestling? What kind of, are you talking business? Like, what are those?
Video games.
Really?
Video games. Guys are card nuts. Like, man, you get guys that never really had any money, and then they can afford to go get a $50,000 car. They go get them. Hey, man, you guys see this, and they looking in the phone, they scrolling, looking, and it's car pictures. You think they talking about the kids? And oh, that's my baby right there. Oh, what you got, man? You got a boy or a girl? No, it's a Bentley, man. Like, look, that's wrestling, man. Okay. Wrestling is stuff. But we real family oriented too. Like, you go to any major pay-per-view, SummerSlam, WrestleMania, then you see the families come and you see how the guys are with their families. You see it's a family. It's like a family reunion every year for WrestleMania.
Last question. At this point in your career, what would be your dream match?
I'm 2-0 against The Rock. I think I should give him the opportunity to get one, to get a chip against me. So I think that if I was going to come out of retirement and wrestle somebody, I would come out and say, hey, man, so you're wrestling again, huh? You never beat me. Don't that bother you a little bit? You should want to get that chip and see what he says.
What would he say?
Yes, and your ass going down this time. You might as well go on and look at the lights. Yeah, I would have to look at the lights.
You guys were part of the Nation of Domination. I think it was right where it needed to be. It was forward thinking, but also ahead of its time. How would that fit in today's landscape with what's going on in the world?
You know what? I think that it would be different because, like, we were not like what people thought. Like, you have all these black militant groups. We had 3 white guys in our group in the Nation. We had Savio Vega, who was from Puerto Rico. Golly, I mean, just the fact that we had Owen Hart in there and he was the Black Heart. You couldn't say that now.
No.
Man, if you called this up the Black Heart, they would crucify.
Yeah.
It's you know what? I just feel it was a different time. I think that now you look at the Hurt Business and what the Hurt Business is doing in wrestling. They're not about color either. They just happen to be extremely talented black men. Mm-hmm. And they're about green, because I don't know if you watched the show Monday. Titus O'Neil wanted to go join the Hurt Business. And he was like, hey, man, look, I wear the suits. I look like y'all. I mean, man, look at us. Yeah, I fit in. And they was like, oh. And they beat the dog crap out of it. They dog walked. You know the term dog walk.
Yeah, Cardi B did it.
I tell you, man, like, the Hurt Business is as close as it's ever came.
Huh. That's real. We always make magic whenever we talk.
We're going to have to just do a show together, man.
I like that idea.
We could be like Jacob and Jacoby, which is like one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
Jalen he's special, man.
Yes.
He's And Jacoby is like he's a Renaissance guy. I like to hear him talk about cooking and being with his family, and you know his outlook on sports is different. It's skewed because he's kind of like me. He's a homer. I'm a Texan. It's all about the Cowboys. You know, I'm a Texas Longhorn guy. Like, I mean, it is what it is. He's the same way. He sticks to his guns, man. He likes his team, and he makes no apology for it. And Jalen just rakes him over the coals about it.
And your podcast is doing pretty well. You're no spring chicken in that regard. You're a vet yourself. Your World's Strongest Man podcast. You put out a podcast 6 days ago, but pretty regular with it. How long have you guys been running? How long have you been running your show?
You know what, man? We started the show during the pandemic, and we had one of our guys. He's a director, so he's been on like 4 jobs, like big time jobs, doing films now, because he was doing short films and doing low budget films before pandemic hit, and now Hollywood likes him. So I ain't mad. Go make that money, bro. And this, I'm leaving this weekend. It's been like this, you know, we just can't get together. But the first show that we're gonna do will probably be next weekend. It'll be the next new episode.
I like
So
it.
for all the fans out there that watch Not a Sports Show, we'll be back. We will be back very, very soon.
You heard it first, brother. Here's the good news. You're off the hot seat.
I'm off.
Yeah.
Whew. Whew, man. I had to put that. It's getting hot in here. Drop in there.
Yeah. That Nelly.
And don't forget, man, like for everybody, like you can go to Pro Wrestling Tees and you can get the Mark Henry shirts. You can also catch me Monday through Saturday on Busted Open on Sirius XM channel 156. Man, all of the people, man, this is awesome, man. I love the NBA Network, and us being on Periscope, you know, touching all of the people that watch Twitter, and I mean that's a big deal. So shout out to all of y'all out there, you know, paying attention.
You heard it first, brother. Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you.
My man. I'll talk to you
All right, bro.
later.